today we're going to talk about people who've maybe had a backwards path into a career. We're going to talk about a local organization though first, Direct Relief. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is, because you're everywhere in the world as far as I can tell. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Sure. My name is Andrew McCullough. Been working for Direct Relief since about 2005. Started there volunteering in the warehouse, working after the Asian tsunami hit, just getting medication supplies out the door for people who are affected by the disaster over there. Worked my way up. I was eventually managing the warehouse, running the warehouse, started taking on some projects in Africa, left for a year to get a master's degree in Melbourne, Australia, and came back in 2010 when the Haiti earthquake hit, and they asked me to set up a warehouse for them in Haiti, and I've been doing that ever since.
Well, I've often asked myself, okay, if I go to college, I get my degree in philosophy, what am I going to be when I grow up? And here you are.
Here I am. They tell you a philosophy degree teaches you how to think critically. So we have knowledge about all kinds of subjects.
So Direct Relief, they're up there in Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. I just was down in Peru, as we were talking earlier, and took $48,000 worth of medication down there. Medication that was prescribed by a public hospital and the patients couldn't afford for their diabetes, their high blood pressure, and it's literally saving, extending the lives of people internationally. But I know you've just changed your name. What's going on?
Yeah, so Direct Relief has been around since 1948, I believe, 64 years. Started by some World War II immigrants who came over and just started sending supplies back home to their countrymen. It's evolved over the years, and we now focus on medical supplies. So really, we have over 100 donors in the pharmaceutical manufacturing, to the equipment, your Johnson & Johnson, to your Pfizer, your GSK, your Abbott, who donate their products to us, basically to get them out into the world for patients who would otherwise not be able to afford to access those medications. So what we do is we find qualified, licensed medical professionals in 70 countries around the world and all 50 US states. And we offer these medications and supplies out to them for their patients who otherwise wouldn't be able to pay.
I'm sorry, so we're the richest country in the world and bad things happen here just like they happen elsewhere. Tsunamis happen, and where are some of the places you've had to visit in the United States? And we'll talk about international after that.
Yeah, so in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, we noticed, how great the need was just within our own country for these items, whether it be for chronic care like diabetes or heart conditions or asthma, to people who need insulin on a regular basis. The 50 million uninsured folks in the US really don't have quality access to these medications or can't afford them. And so we said, look, let's not just look internationally, but let's focus here at home. And so we became the only nonprofit licensed to distribute medications in all 50 states. And we now support over 1,100 federally qualified health centers, community nonprofit health centers, who really are the safety net for the uninsured population in the US. So these patients can now go to see their doctors and are able to access medications provided by Direct Relief.
We're part of that safety net, of course, and when we go outside the country, we have Ventura Global Health here, which helps to support our young doctors to leave. And I know we were talking earlier about in Haiti that the UC system is making opportunity in Haiti, but not supporting the doctors getting there. We think that's a very important part. Our clinics go to Niger and Guatemala and down into Honduras and so forth. What's your overhead? I'll ask that bad question right away. So 50 cents out of every dollar or 25 cents out of every dollar. How much goes to actual relief? You can tell us the truth.
We're very fortunate. We have every dollar you give to Direct Relief, less than 1 penny of it goes to overhead. So 99% goes to programs. And when you donate after a specific disaster, the Haiti earthquake, anything, Pakistan just had an earthquake, 100% of those funds will go directly towards that disaster. We feel we're just a steward for the money. The money's not for us, it's for the people who we're trying to help and we're trying to serve, especially in the case of after disaster. The Haiti earthquake in 2010, largest in recorded history, most deaths in the last century from a natural disaster. All the money we've gotten for Haiti has gone directly to support those victims of that earthquake. And I myself have been down there 30 times back and forth in the last 3.5 years. I've got a little apartment there where I stay, and we have two staff there in Haiti now that just run our warehouse and continuously get the medications and supplies needed to those folks who couldn't otherwise be able to pay for them. The University of California, San Francisco just did a study of how much are there medications even available to people in Haiti, let alone could they afford to buy them. They found less than 20% availability of the essential medications for people, which is where we think we have a role to play to just get those medications into the country for those people who wouldn't otherwise get them.
Tell me maybe an interesting story about one of your experiences there, and then I want to kind of close on fundraising, because that's an important part. I don't do golf tournaments, we do grants, we do research, but you have to, the dollar has to run your organization too.
Sure. Well,
break my heart.
A story I think about in Haiti, and it's rare for us to get to see the actual patients who are utilizing these donations. We have a warehouse up in Goleta. All the medications go through there. They get shipped in ocean freight containers, 70 countries all over the world and all 50 states, goes to the doctors who then prescribe it to the patients. Well, we're kind of out of that process once it leaves our hands. We don't always get to see the effect it has on people. Me spending so much time in Haiti, I remember after the earthquake, we were in a tent camp that sprung up because people's homes were destroyed, so they started sleeping in tents, and there was this one camp, 70,000 people were sleeping at this camp, and it was formerly a golf course in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, that just turned into a tent village. People wanted to sleep there because there was nothing over their heads that could be shaking. An organization set up a medical clinic there where they were doing everything from vaccinations to wound care to delivering babies. And one time we were there with a truck delivering products, just unloading the truck basically, and a nurse came running up to us and said, "Do you have any IV fluids? I have a mom who's really in a bad place. She's bleeding, she's losing a lot of fluids, we need to get her an IV." And I was literally unloading IV fluids and IV tubing at the time, and we ran it into the clinic. There was just a MASH tent, clinic, hospital. Got her on the IVs, the baby was born healthy, the mother recovered, and afterwards we went in there, the baby was in the box that the IV fluids we delivered came in. They named the baby after the nurse there that delivered her. So that was one case where I got to really see, directly how these products help people. If that wasn't there, they just wouldn't have had that product to give to that mom. So it hits home when you get to see that. And I'm fortunate to be able to not only get to do it, but then sometimes get to see what it does.
All right, how can we help support that baby in a box?
Yeah, well, the website I believe is on the screen. Again, we are, fundraising is huge for us. We have volunteers who come help pack supplies and care packs at our warehouse in Goleta. Telling your friends, going on Facebook, Twitter, like us on Facebook. Believe it or not, I didn't think a like actually mattered. It actually does, because those donors who are looking to give, they care about how many likes you have on Facebook. So that stuff matters. And so even if you're not financially able to support a like, a tweet, a retweet, anything like that helps.
All right, Ventura, it's time for you to get out there and retweet and like these guys. All right, thank you. Welcome back. Well, I'm here with Peter Fox, internationally famous raconteur.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been talking earlier, I think you were watching the show there as we were talking to that young man, about, well, you get a degree in college, you go to college, then what do you do with your life? And then what do you keep doing with your life and keep doing with your life? And so,
Keep doing.
And just keep doing. So you and I met when I was in medical school, but where'd you go to college? What was your major?
Harvard, and yes, a bunch of my Harvard friends, we all moved out to Hollywood, rented a big house, and Chris had an apartment down the street, and we all, Al Franken and Tom Davis, Senator Al Franken and Tom Davis, and that was our social group, and we spent an interesting year and a half exploring, being young men in Hollywood.
But you were the one with a paycheck. I mean, I'm paying out tons of money to the school, Tom and Al were trying desperately to make it on the improv shows, and
Right.
got so desperate, we were in their band.
That's right. Well, we had our little, there was this band, we rented this house, and they were a legitimate band trying to make it in Hollywood, and Chris and I were in the New Riders of the Purple Shorts, a subset of that band. We played the Troubadour once, actually, and we're asked never to play there again. We're told, well, you're never going to play here again.
I think our band motto was, there's nobody like us, and
nobody likes us.
yeah, so we really tried to live up to our aspirations entirely.
And I think we did, yeah.
So how were you getting your paycheck, though?
Back then?
Yeah, you're so clean shaven today. How did you?
Yeah. I was a waiter at Maselli's restaurant on Hollywood Boulevard, actually on Las Palmas in Hollywood, and Italian restaurant, pizzas, and that's mostly what we ate at that house. Was I'd bring home the pizza that didn't get eaten at Maselli's, and get wolfed down by 8 or 10 ravenous 20-year-olds. So, and I'm sure you've had a piece or two of it.
Yeah, maybe so.
Thank you, Maselli's.
Then did you act in any commercials, or you are a famous actor, so I'm trying to lure this out of you.
Eventually, I wound up working as a bartender at Mr. Chow's restaurant in Beverly Hills. And I made a drink for this fellow who came in, and he liked it a lot. I made him another one, and on the way out, he left, said, "Hey, great job on the drinks." Yeah, thank you. One of the other waiters said, "Do you know who that was?" And his name was Bill Cunningham, and he owned one of the biggest, if not the biggest, commercial talent agency in Los Angeles. And I was in there the next day saying, "Hey, remember me?" "No." I said, "I made you those drinks yesterday." And he said, "What can I do for you?" And I had a picture, and I grew up in a family of 8 in Chicago, and we all did TV commercials to supplement, to put food on the table. So I had a SAG card when I was 10. So I said, I'd like to go out on commercials if that's all right. And he said, "Do you have a SAG card?" And I did. And he said, "Well, I'll send you out for a couple weeks. We'll see what happens." And a few days later, they sent me out on a Certs commercial, Certs, the mint. And I got it, and it was a national, and I had to fly to New York and blah, blah, blah. And that sort of got me in the game. And I started to book commercials fairly regularly after that. And one thing led to another, and television and movies and huge fame. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, and then what came next? Because
Well, next was, you mean down in Hollywood?
yeah, down in Hollywood,
Yeah.
or
Well, one of these
actors, with
yes.
actors.
I wound up in a USC student graduate film. I say student because the fellow who put it together, Gary Allison, always intended to make a real movie through the auspices of USC, the film school there, and sell it to somebody, which they don't allow it anymore. After Gary did this, they got smart and said, you can't do that anymore. But we made it. It was called Fraternity Row, and Paramount bought it, and it was released for around the country. It was a small little fraternity hazing movie. So it was a drama. It wasn't what you would think of something called Fraternity Row would be. But and that from there I went on to get cast in the Waltons for a couple of years and did a lot of TV and did a movie with John Huston and Pele and wound up on Knots Landing and just did a lot of episodic TV and more commercials and anything that would pay.
And so now this part of your life, I know we have a play by
Yes.
Peter Fox that all the high schools are certainly welcome to take on. And
Absolutely, please do. Yeah, I was involved with in Los Angeles. I lived there 32 years and wound up being artistic director of a theater company down there called the Alliance Repertory Company, and produced and acted in many plays down there, and wrote this play called Acts of God, which is a humorous take at human foibles. And Samuel French, which is it's the #1 play publishing company, they bought it. So we've done it in Ojai here, did it down in LA, and yeah, check it out if you're looking for a play. It's funny.
fame, fortune to follow.
Yes, fame and fortune, yeah, right.
So now, I think that what part I wanted to get to is the Besant School. So, so tell us about the Besant School, because that's where you are now. We all you've had a long and varied career. So
Yes.
I want people to feel that we all have choices.
Yes. Well,
some of them were bad. So.
Well, we did okay. Yeah. Yes, I left. Was in Hollywood for 32 years, and then I eventually left for Ojai. When I turned 55, I said enough of LA, which I love LA. It's great. It's got so much to offer, but I didn't want to live in it anymore. And my wife Julie and I moved up to Ojai in 2005, and I would still go down to LA every so often to try and get some gigs. But after a while, it just wasn't what I was looking for, and I wound up getting a job in the development office at Besant Hill School, which used to be Happy Valley School for many years. And then 7 or 8 years ago, they changed the name to Besant Hill School, named after Annie Besant, who was a famed woman suffragette and forward thinker. And that's where I work now. I work in the development office there, raising funds, and that's what's paying the bills right now.
Yeah, so Priscilla Presley went there. And
yeah,
so people, but you also have a world-class basketball team. Is tiny little Besant School there?
Yeah, well, it was. This was a school founded by Aldous Huxley and Krishnamurti and real forward thinkers intellectuals back in the 50s, and the closest thing they came to was in sports was folk dancing. They had a folk dancing group, and they were great at it. They won many competitions, but not in sports. And until a few years ago, well, about 4 years ago, 3 kids from Cameroon came to Besant Hill School. These were worthy kids a couple of them didn't have any families, but they were good students, and they were great basketball players. So this little school that never won anything went from nothing to state championship in their division in 1 year. It was remarkable. So, and it's still a really good basketball team. This year we'll do well as well.
All right, Ventura, it's time for you to go watch some basketball, but also help in the development of the Besant School. They'll have upcoming fundraisers. So Ventura, it's time for you to get to Ojai and get moving out there.
That's right.
Welcome back. I'm here with Kelsey Hendricks. Kelsey, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So you and I met when you came out here to do something a little different. How old were you when you first came out here?
When I first came out here, I was 18 years old. I came out to study for acting.
So did you try a little college first, or?
I did. I went to college for a year. I was in college when I came out here, but it just wasn't working out with my schedule because I was trying to study for acting as well and working and that sort of thing. And you know, I'm not saying anything about education. I think everybody should get an education, but you know, I feel like I can go back to school at a later time, and right now I need to pursue my dreams.
So your dreams, now we were talking a little earlier about Midwestern clipped accents, and
Yes.
occasionally yours slips out a little bit. So where are you from, Kelsey?
I'm from Tennessee.
So you're one of these young actresses who comes out for, you're just going to work at a Denny's downtown and hope you're discovered, or serve a drink at Mr. Chow's, and there'll be some famous, these things happen by accident here. But I think you seem like a determined person, and we're at Ventura Adult Community Education, and I want people to understand that when they get a goal and they set their mind to it, they're going to accomplish it. And that's really why I have you here, because you are one determined young woman.
I am.
So how did you start on acting classes, and what made you think to come here?
Well, when I was 15, I started doing some modeling, and I never thought it was anything realistic just because I'm from Tennessee. So nobody thinks about that or does anything like that. And I slowly started to realize that people do make a career out of it, and it's possible, and you can do those things. So I just decided, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be. And I just started taking classes, and I started out taking classes back in Tennessee. And then I went to Canada and worked on a show there. And the morning that I woke up and had to be on set by 5 a.m., and I was more than excited to be up before 5 a.m., that's when I knew this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Well, who was your acting coach?
Karen Carlson. She was my acting coach back in Tennessee.
So what's Karen Carlson's background? I think she and Peter Fox, our previous guest, knew each other. So.
That's Judy. Yeah,
Oh,
Judy
sorry.
and Peter knew each other from the Waltons. Yeah, Judy was Mary Ellen on the Waltons. She's one of my other, I guess you would say, acting coaches as well. I haven't had the opportunity to work with her as a coach as much as I would like to. I did have the privilege of working with her on the TV show I did in Canada, though. That was Bluff. And I'm working with her right now on a web series called The Disorganized Zone.
So that's, it's kind of there's a different thing happening here. Everybody's got their cell phone out and they're booking face at each other and making line, and all these, I don't know how much the cast of these shows makes nowadays. So there's a whole different economic there with these web series. A lot more freedom can come, and the classes here, the school here is really here to give people that freedom, so that people who are behind the cameras here can go out and make a series like the
The Disorganized Zone.
Very good. So we'll make sure that flashes underneath while you say the
Disorganized Zone.
Very good. So, how is it? Are there sponsors for the Disorganized Zone? How did they get together? There's kind of a critical mass here in Hollywood where explosions occur. So.
Well, the Disorganized Zone was written quite a long time ago, and they filmed it, and it just didn't really. It wasn't what they wanted it to be. So the writer got together with Judy Norton here recently, and they rewrote and did some different things on it, and basically they just wanted to reshoot all of it and with the new script, and they just got a lot of friends and people that they knew to just all come together and to work on this. And we're shooting, I believe, 4 episodes, and we're just going to try to sell it to some different, some other people, get some sponsors on, and hopefully keep going with it.
So some Pepsi and a pizza, and you'll go a long way.
Yeah.
So good. So you're having fun. Are you up at 5 in the morning again? Is that?
Not as early. I'm only up by 7 or 6, but it's still.
What's a Monday through Friday job? So
it's on the weekends.
So that part works out well.
Yeah.
So now when you came out, when we first got to know each other, you came out to study with another acting coach.
I studied with Jack Walter.
We'll have a moment of silence there, even though he's still with us there. So tell us a little bit about Jack, and did Karen get you an invitation there?
Yes, Miss Karen Carlson, who I was studying with before, she actually connected me to Jack's assistant, and she had told me all about him. She studied with Jack probably 20, 30 years ago, a long time ago. She studied with him for a specific role that she was doing. Jack is, I believe, in his 80s now, in his late 80s, and he is absolutely amazing. He, you know, even for his age, he hears everything. He knows everything that goes on. He doesn't miss anything at all. He's absolutely, I don't know how to explain him. He's just really amazing.
So you fly in from Tennessee, you're what, 19 at this point, and you go into his office. So what happened that day in his office? Do you knock on the door, or do you just throw up in the parking lot for a couple hours first, or?
Well, I actually walked in on another audition. So I kind of got kicked out at first and had to go outside, and I waited and waited. And I finally went back in, and I talked to him for a moment, and then he asked me to audition. So I did my audition, and I did it the way that I portrayed it in my head, how I thought it went and how I thought my character acted. And I just, you know, did it the way I thought it went, and he stopped me, and he just started asking me personal questions. And within, you know, just a couple seconds, he had me crying. And I was just crying like crazy, and he said, "Now do the monologue again." And I was like, wow, okay, I never imagined that it being like that, but wow. He knows exactly how to get what he wants out of you.
So he's done that for Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
So that heart connection, it's not just words on a page. Peter's written words on a page, and I hope that they've acted them. But so that's really what you're learning, is how to connect you and your life experiences.
Yes.
My hats off to you as you're starting off on your career, and you're starting in the business itself. So you're a script supervisor, and of course we're going to see you. Before we go, what's your goal in life there?
My goal in life, it's one of those things, like you see those movies where no matter how many times you've seen them, you're still laugh or crying every single time you see them. And I really want to be that actor, that actress that everybody can say that, you know, no matter how many times they've seen me, they're still moved by me.
Ventura, it's time for you to go watch Kelsey Hendricks, get to that forbidden zone. In fact, it's time for you to get moving.